11 championships, 2 dynasties, a coaching philosophy like no other. Phil Jackson didn't just win, he rewrote basketball. But how did the Zen Master go from innovator to outsider in the league he once dominated?
But the guys came in and said, please come back, make the decision. It's
Phil Jackson was never the fastest, the strongest, or the most gifted player on the court. But what he lacked in raw talent, he made up for in understanding the game on a deeper level, a level that would eventually revolutionize the sport itself. Drafted by the New York Knicks in 1967, he wasn't a star, but he was a student of the game. Under legendary coach Red Holzman, Jackson learned the fundamentals that would shape his coaching philosophy, moving without the ball, finding the open man, and sacrificing individual glory for team success. These lessons helped him win 2 championships as a player, but they were just the beginning. While his teammates celebrated in nightclubs, Jackson spent his off hours differently. He devoured books on Eastern philosophy, studied Native American wisdom, and explored meditation. In the hyper-masculine world of 1970s basketball, Jackson's interests made him an outsider, but they were laying the groundwork for something revolutionary.
And they're killing down fast. Phil, congratulations.
Thank you.
Big series.
A lot better than sitting on the sidelines watching 1970.
You came through one of the big stars of the series. You saved your big ones for the end.
Thank you. Thank you.
His coaching journey began in the remote gyms of Puerto Rico and Albany, New York. In the Puerto Rican language, he learned to communicate across cultural barriers. With the Albany Patroons of the CBA, he experimented with unconventional coaching methods that the NBA wasn't ready for. While other coaches drilled their players in endless X's and O's, Jackson was teaching his teams to meditate, assigning philosophical readings, and building mental toughness through unusual team exercises.
I'm hoping they gel in the playoffs. I'd rather have them gel then than a month before the season's over.
By 1987, he joined the Chicago Bulls as an assistant coach. What he found there was a team with the greatest talent in basketball history and the greatest challenge of his career. Fast forward to 1989, the Chicago Bulls had a problem. They had Michael Jordan, the most dominant scorer in basketball history. But after 5 years of trying, they couldn't get past the Detroit Pistons' bad boys. The Jordan rules, Detroit's brutal defensive scheme, had turned the league's greatest player into a one-man show fighting against an army. The Bulls needed more than just a new coach, they needed a revolution. Enter Phil Jackson. His first meeting with Jordan wasn't about basketball at all. Instead of showing film or running drills, Jackson handed Jordan a book, The Art of War. While many believe it was Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance, Jackson knew that to transform the Bulls, he had to transform their mindset first. Jackson's message was simple but radical. Michael, you're good enough to score 60 points a game, but can you trust your teammates enough to win a championship? It wasn't about sharing the ball, it was about surrendering the ego, and Jackson had a system that would change everything. The triangle offense wasn't new. Assistant coach Tex Winter had been teaching it for decades, but in Phil Jackson's hands, it became basketball's greatest symphony. Every movement had purpose, every pass created opportunity, and every player became a threat. At its core, the triangle created perfect spacing, 3 players on one side, 2 on the other, and endless possibilities between them. A single pass could trigger 33 different options. It was basketball's chess game, forcing players to read, react, and trust each other's decisions. But here's what made it revolutionary. The triangle didn't just work around Jordan's greatness, it enhanced it. When defenses swarmed him, teammates were always in perfect position. When they backed off, Jordan had space to attack. As Scottie Pippen put it, the triangle gave us structure, but within that structure, we had total freedom. In practice, Jackson would blindfold his players, forcing them to feel the spacing rather than see it. He'd make them run the offense in complete silence, developing an almost supernatural connection. Players who mastered it said the triangle wasn't just an offense, it was a state of mind.
To that next level. With the triangle, the ball is constantly moving. The defense is second guessing what you're trying to do, and it definitely works.
The results were staggering. The Bulls went from averaging 110 points per game to nearly 120. Their assist numbers skyrocketed, and most importantly, they finally had an answer to the Pistons' defense. What followed wasn't just success, it was basketball perfection. The Bulls didn't just beat teams, they broke their will. The triangle offense was only part of the equation. Jackson's real genius was in managing the mental game. Before crucial games, he'd burn sage in the locker room, a Native American ritual for clearing negative energy. He gave each player personalized books that spoke to their struggles. For the aggressive Dennis Rodman, books about finding inner peace. For the cerebral Steve Kerr, books about warrior philosophy. His practice sessions became legendary. One day he made the team practice in complete darkness to heighten their awareness. Another time he brought in martial arts master to teach mindfulness. Phil didn't just coach basketball, said Steve Kerr. He coached the person. Through it all, the championships kept coming. 3 straight from 91 to 93. Then after Jordan's baseball hiatus, 3 more from 96 to 98. The Bulls were just winning. They were redefining what was possible in basketball. Jackson's methods were so revolutionary that they became the blueprint for success in the NBA. But even as he reached the pinnacle of coaching, his greatest test was still to come. 1999, the Los Angeles Lakers had basketball's most talented duo, Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant. But talent wasn't their problem. As one Laker insider put it, "We had 2 alpha dogs and no pack leader. Enter Phil Jackson, fresh off 6 championships with the Bulls, ready for his greatest challenge yet." Jackson's approach to Shaq and Kobe was masterful in its subtlety. He treated Shaq like a gentle giant, using humor and patience to motivate him. But with Kobe, Jackson saw a younger, more intense version of Jordan. As Jackson later wrote, "Kobe was like a wild horse that needed breaking, but break his spirit and you'd lose what made him special." Once again, the triangle offense became the perfect mediator. It gave Shaq his touches in the post, Kobe his freedom on the wing, and most importantly, it gave them both a system bigger than their egos. In team meetings, Jackson wouldn't just draw plays, he'd tell stories of Native American chiefs who led through sacrifice, of Zen Masters who found strength in surrender. The results were immediate and devastating. 3 straight championships from 2000 to 2002. The Lakers didn't just win, they dominated. Shaq called it the Lake Show. The rest of the league called it unfair. But the peace wouldn't last. By 2004, the dynasty was crumbling. Kobe wanted to be the alpha, Shaq felt disrespected, and for the first time, Jackson's Zen philosophy couldn't bridge the gap. Shaq was traded, Jackson left. The Lakers dynasty was over, or so everyone thought. When Jackson returned in 2005, he found a different Kobe Bryant, older, wiser, and ready to learn. The student had finally become ready for the teacher. Together, they'd reached 3 more finals, winning 2 more titles. As Kobe put it, "Phil didn't just teach me basketball, he taught me how to lead." 2011 marked the end of Jackson's coaching career. 11 rings, 6 with the Bulls, 5 with the Lakers. But the game was changing. 3-point shooting was replacing post-play. Analytics were replacing intuition. The triangle offense, once revolutionary, looked increasingly out of date. Then came the final chapter, the New York Knicks presidency. The same court where Jackson had won championships as a player now became the scene of his greatest failure. He tried to force the triangle into a league that had evolved beyond it. Star player Carmelo Anthony resisted. Free agents avoided the team. The Zen Master had lost his touch. In team meetings, instead of inspiring players with philosophical wisdom, Jackson seemed to alienate them. He publicly criticized his own stars, calling Carmelo Anthony a ball stopper and questioning his commitment to winning. The game had changed, but Jackson hadn't changed with it. By 2017, the experiment was over. The master of adaptation had finally failed to adapt. It was a tragic end for a coach who had once been the ultimate innovator.
Felt this one of our most disappointing ones we've had.
What's the legacy of the Zen Master? Is it the 11 championships, the innovative offense, the psychological mastery? Perhaps it's something deeper, the proof that basketball is more than just a game of physical talent. Today's NBA still carries Jackson's DNA. Steve Kerr's Warriors run triangle concepts. Eric Spoelstra preaches mindfulness. Greg Popovich gives his players books. The league has evolved beyond the triangle, but Jackson's bigger lessons remain. Great teams are built on trust, sacrifice, and consciousness. Phil Jackson wasn't just a coach who won games. He was a philosopher who changed how we think about sports. His legacy isn't just in the 11 championships or the revolutionary triangle offense. It's in the way he taught players to strip away their egos and embrace mindfulness. From Jordan to Kobe, from Shaq to Pippen, Jackson's greatest gift was his ability to turn individuals into a team. But his story is also a cautionary tale. The same stubbornness that made him a visionary, his refusal to compromise on the triangle, his belief in mindfulness over analytics, also led to his downfall. Today, his influence lives on in coaches who've adapted his lessons to a new era. The game has evolved, but Jackson's core principles remain timeless. Greatness isn't just about talent or strategy. It's about trust, sacrifice, and the space between the X and the O's, where the mind meets the moment and where individuals become something greater than themselves. Phil Jackson changed basketball forever, but his legacy reminds us that even the greatest minds must adapt or risk being left behind. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode of Bench Bosses.